I don't hear you now. I don't hear you.
How about now?
I hear you perfectly.
If you're new to my channel, welcome, welcome, welcome. Guys, we've been having some glitches. That's okay. This is real live. Y'all know I'm real. We're real here. So we're here today. We have a special guest with us. We are talking to Megan DiMartino. And guys, as nurses, nurse practitioners, even lay people, we're looking for different streams of income. And guys, she is the master of this. Okay, so we want to talk to her this afternoon about her business, being an entrepreneur, and you guys are going to love her. So let me bring her on. Hey,
Hello, hello.
yes, I can hear you.
Yay.
Awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much. So, listen, Megan DiMartino, we are so happy to have you. And as you know, as medical professionals, nurses, nurse practitioners, doctors, whomever, we need multiple streams of income, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I'm always looking for more. I'm always looking for something that will help me either in retirement, or I'm a single mom with my kids, or whatever the case may be. Can you tell us a little bit about you and your entrepreneurial journeys, your entrepreneurial ventures, things like that? Just tell us who you are. I'm so happy you're here.
Really, my pleasure. And it's such a joy to be able to share, Dr. Jamesia, with your guests, with your audience, what not only what I do, but again, synergistically tying it together with what you do, as well as what your audience is looking for. But a very brief nutshell, I am a New York girl.
Mhm.
Grew up on Long Island, outside of New York City, by two very entrepreneurial parents. They were immigrants' children, and they really always looked over the horizon. So I was brought up with that spirit, meaning to always look not just in the box and not just out of the box, but around the box, and to pursue my own dreams. And that's a very important piece because, and I don't mean just me personally, I'm talking about anyone, because I think today, and I am not even talking about the last 2 years, I'm just talking about in general, that people, because it's such a quick, uh, um, if you don't make it today, it's over type of thing. And that, quite frankly, is absolutely not the case. Meaning that you have to identify your dreams, goals, and desires and write them down, put them on tablets, and they
Mhm.
will always evolve. Trust
Right.
me. But that when you put them down, you have made that statement that
Mhm.
this is who I am. So I was the kid, grew up in a very blue collar neighborhood, and we were always doing plays and lemonade stands and all kind of crazy things. And I was the kid that was putting them together. I was the organizer.
Uh-huh.
And so I learned early on, that what made my heart sing was being creative. I mean, now, did I know what I was going to do? Absolutely not. But I knew that creating something was what made my heart sing. So it's really important to always have that dream, to have that idea, because again, it will evolve, it will change. But if you look back on yourself, and I mean you personally as well, if you
Mhm.
look back on yourself, you can see a thread of what you're doing currently, to what you were as a little girl.
Yeah, yeah,
I mean, you really
absolutely. I
can.
hadn't think about that.
Yeah. And so, as I said, I wasn't just a dreamer. As my mom would say, I was more like Ray DiMartino than any of the four kids. And what she meant by that was that I was a doer as well. So I
Mhm.
wasn't just a dreamer, but I was a doer. So, fast forward, I thought I was going to be creating in the fashion industry, but God had a different plan. And I went to college for fashion merchandising and worked in that world in New York City for a few years before I got married and had my first child. But I stayed in the I shouldn't say stayed, but I was in Lord & Taylor, and I went to Bloomingdale's, and I worked in the buying office of cosmetics. And they brought a line in from London called Biba. And if you watched the movie about Queen, that maybe 4 or 5 years ago, Freddie Mercury, his girlfriend Mary worked at Biba. Okay. So anyhow, but Bloomingdale's cut a deal with them to bring in the cosmetic, the glamour portion. So I was a young woman, and they approached me and said, would I like to be the co-manager of this? And I said, sure. So I was trained by the Biba team in makeup artistry. And so during that season, now this is the early 70s. And one day I just had this epiphany that someday I was going to create something like this. Well, I had no idea what that would entail, but that was that moment in time. That was that moment in time where I said, I'm going to create something like this. So that was many, many years before I actually created my first brand, Glycolique, which was 1992. So that was in the early 70s, so 20 years later. But I worked in different I left that industry and went national sales and marketing in the beauty industry. And that led me to moving to Texas, technically. I took a job with Alcon Laboratories because by this point, I said, it's time to do this. Now, remember, in 1973, I said, someday I'm going to do this. And so every step along the way led me in training, so to speak, because again, people today are not willing to put in the time.
They
want immediate gratification.
Yeah, microwave.
So here from a little girl identifying that I wanted to create something to then having that, thinking it was going to be fashion. It's a whole story behind that, but that's unimportant at this moment. But again, God had a different plan, led me to this direction, but I still had to learn. Because there was no such thing in those days as Google, as websites. I couldn't go, well, tell me about the most current ingredient. I couldn't do that because it didn't exist. So what did I do? I was recruited by Alcon, and they physically moved me to Fort Worth, Texas, where I was able to hang out, as I call it, very sophisticated chemists, and ask them and really study. So
how long did you study? How long were you there with the chemist?
I was there for 5 years.
Oh, wow.
Okay. 5 years. Okay. And we put together a hair care line. It's, again, a long story, but Alcon, if anyone wears contact lenses, you may be familiar with Alcon because they have a contact lens solution. So it's a huge company. It's publicly traded. It's part of Nestle Corporation, which is an international company. But Alcon itself manufactures products for the ophthalmologist and the dermatologist. Okay. And they have various divisions, and I worked in one of those divisions. But as I said, I was able to hang out with these chemists and ask them, a lot of questions and glean information. And during that season, today, one of the most current ingredients that a lot of people know of is called hyaluronic acid. But guess what, kids? That has been around forever. And it was initially used for eye surgery to keep the eye moist, because yes, it is a very, very hydrating ingredient, holds 1,000 times its weight in water. So it's a large molecule, and that's why it was used for eye surgery. But we put together, this is 1989, Dr. Jamesia, we put together a hair care line based on hyaluronic acid. Really? A lot of years ago.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
The amount that we use now, is it still about the same as what you guys used back then, or have we watered it down?
Very good question. But I'm going to answer in two ways. Number one, initially, hyaluronic acid came from the comb of a cock. Okay. So obviously not a natural, I mean, it was a natural substance, but meaning it was animal byproducts. Okay. So that's a no-no today.
It is a no.
So, no today. So by the time I got there, they had already scientifically re-engineered it. Okay. So basically, to answer your question, so it was already scientifically re-engineered, not watered down, but
Okay.
replicated. Okay. So it wouldn't be, an animal byproduct. Okay.
Right.
But to answer your question, and that's a very good question, and I'm going to answer it for every product. I'm going to
Okay.
answer this. Okay. No two products are created the same. No two products. You can have a picture of an orange and say with vitamin C, and no two vitamin C products are created the same. Okay. What
Yes, ma'am.
sets them apart? Science and research. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
Science and research, how a product is put together, the active ingredients, the recipe, so to speak. An analogy for that would be a chocolate cake.
Okay.
You go to the grocery. Sarah Lee there, she's frozen, right? She could have been frozen for a couple of years. That or chocolate cake in a box, or your grandmother's recipe, right? With fresh ingredients. They're all chocolate cakes, but they're manufactured differently.
Yes.
Okay. So it's very important to know what is in a formulation, what is in that product, and what it's supposed to do, and where and how it's been made. Okay.
Well, we need to know this. We need to know, Megan.
Yes.
How do we know?
You don't. And that therein lies, people like myself. I have dedicated my career, honestly, on this type of thing of educating. So back in the day, after I left Alcon, and I put my first skincare line together, Glycolique, based on glycolic acid, alpha hydroxy fruit acids. Okay. That was in 1992. In 1992, there was no such thing as a spa that we know today. Didn't exist. Right. Meaning that there were hair stylists, and that they started doing, acrylic nails and the like in the 80s. But doing facials and the like didn't exist. So not only did I have to educate what I just shared with you, but I also had to educate the salon owner or manager how to bring in skincare and educate their staff. So I have been educating the industry for 30 years. Okay. So I launched Glycolique in 92, sold it through, as I just shared, the wholesale salon industry, built it and sold it to the lab that manufactured it. And then ran it contractually for them for a couple of years, and then started anew and started Novita. Novita means new birth. In 2004-ish, I started studying areas, thought I was going to do a spa/medical spa in Fort Worth, but I saw, I knew Austin. I had done many trade shows there. And I said, let me study this area, because I was much more interested in coming to this area. So I did. And so in 2004/5, I started the Novitas Spa, and which evolved to a medical rejuvenation clinic. And so basically, during the early 90s period, when I started Glycolique, I got my aesthetic license in the state of Texas. And I didn't really need that to put together a product line, but I wanted to do it in preparation for what I did in the mid 2000s.
Right.
And, okay. So anyhow, but I've held an aesthetic license for many, many years. And then in the 2012-ish, my staff and I studied, I did the research work, but put together what needed to be to start a medical spa, meaning what, licensing we needed, medical director, insurances, and things of that nature. So I added the medical component to the luxury day spa in the mid 2000, in about 2012, 13. Okay.
Now, maybe I have a question for you. If you were to work with, say, a nurse or a nurse practitioner or MA, a doctor, whomever, to
Yes.
start their med spa, is that something that you do? And if it is it a course? Is it a one-on-one thing? I mean, do you do those types of things?
Yes. Well, first off, I've done it for 35 years. And so when I launched Glycolique in 92, the medical spa thing hadn't happened yet.
Right.
And because I have been out there for so long, equipment company like laser hair removal and the like approached me and said, would you come to our conferences and be part of it? So I've been consulting with docs forever. Okay. So I do that currently as well. And the thing I want to share with that piece is that every state is different. Every state's law is different. You're in Virginia, meaning the law of how a structure of a medical spa is different than Texas, for instance. Okay. But in Texas, you need a medical director. You need, a nurse practitioner.
The medical director can be a practitioner or a PA, right?
It can be. It can be. Yes, it can be. And but in some states don't operate that way. So you have to go into it and do that research first. You do. And really understand that. Now, hypothetically, if it was, let's say, yourself or a physician who wanted to go develop something with you, I'm just using that as an example. I'm going to make a statement here.
Yes, I'm listening.
Business is business. Okay. Meaning that you and I both know that starting something and scaling something and sustaining something is not easy.
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
And so to answer your question, I have, first off, in my consulting work, there's a set structure, but I go in and ascertain what do they want, because everyone's at a different place, but it is from not only the philosophy of the business to establish that, but also hiring, training, and those types of things. But let's say you were a medical practice and you wanted to add medical aesthetics. Let's just call it that. So again, it would be, it goes back to what do you want? What do you want it to look like? Is it your existing staff? Should they go for training? Things of that nature. So it's not just a quickie answer, but I also have a program called Propel Activation Program to start, scale, and sustain the business and practice and life of your dreams. Because the other thing, Dr. Dramisia, and you and I spoke about this, is that too many people do not do that research work first, just jump off the bridge or the diving board and hope there's water in the pool or the water in the river, and don't really do their research work and end up creating a job for themselves versus a business for themselves.
Right. Wow, that's a mouthful.
The more clear you can be before you even begin, the more promising your success will be.
Right.
Okay. And there's an adage that I live by in life and also my building businesses is start small and scale fast.
Yeah, mine is. Yeah, I guess mine is along the same wavelength. Think big, start small. Think big, scale fast.
Yeah. Because if you can get stuck in paralysis analysis, you can get stuck there, and that's almost as bad as not starting. Right. But you can get a person off of that just with some exercises. But again, but you have to start, and that's why it was a blessing for me, because when I came to Austin in 2004-5, and I say 4 because I came in 4 and as an esthetician started a small business just to test the market. Didn't even live here, but was able to do treatments because I'm licensed. Right. And so I was able to start small. Once I decided that this was where I wanted to do it, then I did all the research work that I just told you about, and then established it in 2005. But I didn't do the medical piece until 12 because of the recession.
Okay.
So it was, I was ready to go. It was in my business plan, but I stopped it because the marketplace was too soft, and I felt that it wasn't the right time. So what ended up happening is as you've heard so many times, that basically people buy from people they know, like, and trust. So I was able to establish that relationship, market myself and the business. And then when I added that component, people already knew us, liked us, trusted us, and went from there.
That's amazing. Okay, you said something that really struck me. You said during the recession, you kind of slowed down, you didn't go for it. How has the pandemic affected your type of business?
I was just listening to some gals from Canada talking about a whole mess, and this trucker thing that the whole country is putting together.
I don't know what it's about.
Yeah, a lot of people don't even know about it. No. But just not to deviate too dramatically, but I'm going to circle back to your question. They're in a grave lockdown again.
Okay.
And the truckers, who are the lifeline, are going from coast to coast and meeting in the capital, Ottawa, and for a protest.
Okay. I think I may have heard a little bit about Canada being on lockdown again.
Yes, and they are. Exactly. The news media doesn't really speak about this. But back to your question, and I'm going to answer it 2 ways.
Okay.
Again, each state and area has different, structures, and I'm in Texas, so it's fairly open, but you still have to operate from a respect place and a sanitation place. We've always operated from an OSHA sanitation, so, there are things about that. But what I would say to you is this, is that in 2018, I'm using this as an example. In 2018, I added regenerative stem cell therapy to the practice, to the wellness piece.
Okay. Yeah.
Long before any of this mess happened. And that really initially was, I had no plan on bringing it to Novitas Biomedical Rejuvenation Clinic, but I needed a new replacement from the traditional standpoint. But I did a lot of research, like I always do, and I did not want surgery because it wasn't foolproof. It was a 60-40. Okay. I didn't want to end up being the 40 and having plastic and metal in my knee.
Right.
Okay. So I started doing research, and I ended up having regenerative stem cell in my left knee.
Okay.
And 3 years later, have a new knee. Okay.
No surgery.
No surgery. No downtime. Exactly. Okay.
What? Wow.
Okay. So with that said, I said, I have to see if I can bring this to our structure.
So you went somewhere for that?
I did. I went to a orthopedic practice up in Dallas. And I went there mainly because friends of mine had it. Okay.
Referred you, right?
They did. And I trusted them. They, professional folks, meaning I felt very comfortable. So, but the response was so amazing. And people saw, because anyone that knew me, Dr. Demesia, knew I was in trouble. I mean, I should have had a walker, you know? I mean, I was a mess. So about a month later, I'm walking and I didn't have surgery. And people are like, what did you do? I said, I'm not, I'll let you know.
I'll get back to you on that.
I'll get back to you. So the first person I called was my insurance broker and my agent. And I called him because I had very good insurance. And I called him and I said, can I add regenerative stem cell to, my policy? And he said, yes. So I said, okay. So I already had a medical director, already had nursing staff. We did injectables and laser and so forth. So I then did research and found a company that I did a lot of research on the essence of the birth product cell, the stem cells. And so I became a partner, as this company calls us, with R3 Stem Cell, Dr. David Green. Okay. Now he's not here. He's in Scottsdale, Arizona, but meaning he is a training company. Okay. And also has the relationships with the labs. Okay. So I started doing work with Dr. Green in January of 19. Again, a whole year before this mess started. Okay. And so then when the lockdown, so to speak, happened in March of 20, I obviously didn't do it, but I never went dark. I was down at the spa every day, meaning because as long as FedEx was in business, I was in business because I shipped my products all over the country. Okay. The Novitas Spa clinical skincare products. Okay.
So you were already online.
Oh, yes. Oh, I've had a shopping cart since 2004.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. That was already set. That has been in the structure for many, many years. Yes. So back to your question. So that's personal, meaning, so when, and again, I'm in Texas, so we opened up in May. And so with that, we were able just to continue on. Okay. But what I see now very clearly, and I have colleagues all over the country, is that the consumer, and we're all consumers, the consumer is aware that things like stem cell occur. They do.
Yeah.
And they are much more aware of themselves, meaning that they need to be their own advocate. And so it's never, in my opinion, this is my opinion, it's never a better time to do something like what I've done. It's never a better time because the consumer, again, this is from north, south, east, and west. The consumer is aware that these, and I'm not just talking about stem cell, I'm talking about a myriad of things are available. And if they're not aware of it, they can become available. I mean, they can become aware, that's your job, meaning that's the marketing, that's the scaling part, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But as far as the want from the consumer, it's there. And the awareness of what we do, yes, still in its infancy, but much more aware than 2.5 years ago.
So Megan, let me ask you, what is your biggest form of marketing since you said that? Is it word of mouth? Is it you? Is it your beauty? Is it your need? Is it, tell me how.
It's a great question. Because again, I'm going to tie it back to what we started with, in a sense, meaning that today people with immediate gratification, and so I'm going to make a statement to you that I have been saying for 30 years. Now, obviously, things have changed, but you need to do a little bit of it all.
Okay. Hey, that's fair. I believe it.
Yes, meaning that, and each practice, each medical spa has its own personality. So it needs to be tailor-made to that. Okay. But what I mean by that, a little bit of it all, is again, that start small, dream big, start small, scale fast.
Right.
When I added, I'm just going to go back to this. When I added the medical component, which initially was injectables, it was laser hair removal, it was IPLs. Okay. That's what we initially added. Went on to cool sculpting and this and that and the other thing. Okay. But when I started introducing that, I mean, I do an e-blast at least 3 times a week. And we have an open rate of 30%. That's very strong. And that's because I write it with a story in mind. Like I'm talking to you. Okay. I'm not just selling something. I'm communicating with you. And so when I was introducing this, I didn't just introduce it. We had a rollout. We spoke about it as a company. And then guess what I do? Always do. A champagne open house.
Okay. Absolutely.
Okay. Ta-da!
So
And
Novitas, you
Novitas.
have Novitas. It's brick and mortar somewhere?
So basically, I started it in 2005, and I sold the asset purchase in 2020. A guy literally knocked on my door and said, "Would you like to sell me your business?" And when we started communicating, first of all, I could see that he wasn't from the industry. He had no idea really what he was doing. And so, I mean, I'm not being disrespectful. I'm just saying that he had no interest in buying a skincare brand. Okay. So I said, as we continued communicating, I said, okay, I'd like to, negotiate about this piece of it, but I don't want to sell you the trade name, the URL, the shopping cart, the product line, the intellectual property. I don't want to sell that.
What did he get? What did he get?
He basically bought the lease. He bought the lease, the finish out, the very expensive laser equipment, things of that nature. Okay. So if you could say the goodwill, that type of thing. But, and it's a big but, I also said, but I'm going to continue doing regenerative stem cell therapy. He said, fine, no problem. And so this is January 28th, about this time last year, because we closed on June 2nd. I consulted with him for a couple of months. And during that season, I kept doing the regenerative.
Yes.
Because I do a lot of seminars in the area. I do a lot of speaking. And so I was finished with my consulting with him in December. And so last year at this time, I found a location, much smaller, but it's around the corner from where we were. So a good location. And 3 of my main gals have started their own business, continued on what we've done. And I did a patient yesterday there. So, yeah. So what I'm doing right now is, and that's why when he literally knocked on the door, I was ready to not work 7 days a week.
Okay.
You follow?
Yeah.
I was really ready. And this is another piece that's very, very important. These 3 women that I just mentioned, the least amount of time that they worked for me was 6 years. That's unheard of in the spa industry.
Wow, that says a lot to you, your character, your leadership. Yeah, that's amazing. So let me ask you, it sounds like you love this. You've been doing this for a long time. This is going to be 2 questions in one. What advice do you give to women who want to do something like this? Megan, I have talked to my daughter about this. She works in a dermatology office. She is going to PA school. And of course, I'm a practitioner. And she's like, Mom, we need to do this, right? Like, we don't have to do the full dermatology. We can do the aesthetic portion of it.
Yes.
I don't know much about it. I'm not certified in it, right? But I'm very interested. What advice for women specifically who want to go into this type of business, and what inspires you to keep going in this business?
Well, I'm going to answer the second question first.
Okay.
You
Okay.
are what inspires me. Okay. Gigi,
Okay.
Bridget, and Melissa are who inspires me.
Okay.
When I finished my consulting with that gentleman, and before I found the location, I prayed about it a lot, meaning, Lord, what do you want me to do? And this phone number that kept ringing just a minute ago, this is actually the landline that I have had for almost 20 years. Okay. That rang into that spa. People continue calling saying, can I have stem cell? And so it's a combination of what I have done for all these years. Remember the little girl putting on, all the plays and things, orchestrating it. But it is about giving other people, like mentoring, Gigi, Bridget, and Melissa, and giving them, they were ready to do their own thing, Dr. Jamesia. They were. Had this man not done that, I would have helped them do sort of like Southwest Airlines, buy into it, because they were ready really to go like this. But so that's what keeps me going, is that creativity. It's helping others identify their dreams, goals, and desires, and help you attain them. That's what keeps me going, but your first question, I'm going to answer it the way I answered it earlier, is you have to be clear. I have this module, which is called, it's start and scale. And the start module is basically based on my 5 C's: clarity, courage, confidence, commitment, and compassion. And there's a workbook with it. There's a video, there's me, and then a workbook with it. So it's you and I working together. You have to be clear, because because the thing is that things in life happen. Pandemics happen.
Yeah.
And so you have to, and I help you do that. I help you identify other things that can be a stream of income if you're closed for 2 months. You see? So like,
I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, it's just like when I didn't know, none of us knew how long we would be closed. But I knew I had a shopping cart. I knew I had products. I knew that people, I have a database of 4,000 people. So I knew I would continue on. Do you see? So my warehouse is in Dallas. And so I just brought in a month's supply and said, let's go for it, So I knew I could survive it. You see?
Yeah. That's right now, I don't know where this thing is going as far as the pandemic is concerned. But I know cosmetics, beauty, aesthetics,
not going to not.
It's not going anywhere.
Nowhere.
Anywhere.
As I repeat, this is the best recession proof, if you want to call it, because a robot cannot do what we do.
Cannot.
No.
So, last question, and then we'll end our broadcast. For me, I always think certification. I always think more education. Like you said earlier, research. And of course, talking about it, spreading the word, getting the word out that I'm thinking about going this way.
Yes.
How it's going to land, right? My question to you is, if I wanted to pivot and start this, do you think it's necessary to get a certification? Is it necessary to do that first before you do anything, before you get an office, if you're clear on this is what you want?
Right, right. Yeah,
Because,
well,
okay.
you need to, as I said, you need to do the research for your state. You
Mhm.
need to just get clarity. That's pretty easy to do. You
Yeah.
can go into, the state board. You can research that pretty easily.
Right.
That's not difficult. And then really from there, you will know what you need to do. I wouldn't just jump off and take all sorts of courses. No,
Okay.
I would do it from what you need to do.
Okay.
Okay.
Start
Because,
small.
yes,
Yeah.
because for instance, you and your daughter
Mhm.
can start this business, but you still need to hire a person like me.
Yes,
You follow?
I
So
do.
you don't have to go and get your aesthetic license, for goodness sakes, but you
Mhm.
have to join forces with somebody that you like, that
Mhm.
you trust, that has the same philosophy as you, and work together.
Mhm.
Because one of the things that, and I'll leave you with this, and not just you, but your audience.
Yes.
As you shared earlier, I've been doing this a long time, and um, it's very factual. I mean, it's not me. You know that 95% first time businesses, are not in business in 5 years. Okay,
Mhm.
doesn't mean that you'll fail. It just means it won't be, let's say, look like how you wanted it to look.
Okay.
Okay, okay.
Mm.
But you can avoid a lot of that by the more clear you are of really how you want it to look, what you want it to do, what you want it to accomplish.
Mhm.
Trust me, your business will evolve. Like I said, we started with an IPL, a laser hair removal, and a nurse that I inherited from the companies like Allergan,
Mhm.
you
Mhm.
know. And I mean, I did my research, who was the best in the area, that type of thing. But did I know I was going to add cool sculpting in 2012? No. You
Right.
follow? Meaning
Yeah.
it was the market that dictated that.
That dictated what you did. Mhm.
Yes. It was what the consumer was looking for that
Mhm.
helped me make many of those decisions.
Right. Okay.
Okay. But the
Yeah.
more clear you are in the front end,
Mhm.
and then this is the last thing I would say, that if the practices, and I'm talking about just docs now,
Uh-huh. Okay.
who just, got some sort of equipment and didn't evolve their business, they're not doing medical aesthetics.
Okay.
Okay. Does that
Okay.
make sense?
It does. It
Yeah.
does.
Yeah.
You
Because
know,
you've
there's
got to,
probably some equipment out there.
yeah. I mean, you've got to base it on the consumer, what,
Yes.
what your client base wants, what they're looking for, what your market is needing.
Mhm.
It's all of that market research and looking in and seeing what's going on.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that is amazing. Well, Megan, it has been amazing talking with you today. Can you tell us and the viewers, where can we find you if we want to connect with you? If
Please.
we are looking to do as you've done and work with you, where can we find you?
Absolutely. Well, first off, I try to keep things simple.
Okay.
I've said that several times. And my name is Megan DiMartino, MEGANDIMARTINO. And I have two websites, novitaSpa.com.
Novita.
Uh, I'm sorry,
Spell it for me.
NOVITA,
Huh?
Novita. Most people say Novita.
Okay.
I'm Italian, so and but or megandimartino.com. And I established the megandimartino.com, during 2020. I actually published a book called Hope and Possibilities, Just Over the Horizon. It went to #1 on Amazon January 4th, 2020, my mother's birthday. And so this is the anniversary month. And so it's still there. I mean, not there, but it's still free. And the audiobook is free. So go to megandimartino.com, give us your information, and then you can download the audiobook as well as the ebook. But and then in the comments, just say, I'd love to communicate with you.
Okay.
So it's my gift to you.
Thank you. That is fabulous. Thank you so much for hanging in here with me today. Thank you so much for being here. And guys, please contact Megan DiMartino if you need anything. Connect with her as far as advice, getting a med spa business, cosmetics, whatever it is. And it sounds like she will be the perfect person to connect. I am Dr. Jamisa, and we will see you in the next video. Take care, guys.
Thank
Bye,
you.
Megan.
Bye-bye.
All right, now. Bye-bye.